whenever you're ready.
I call the hearing to order. First thing we'll do is approve the November 9, 21 minutes. You all had an opportunity to review those, and do I have a motion to?
So moved.
Second. Okay. All right, there is no old business, and under new business, we have first to renominate the chairman of the board, myself, if you're all so inclined.
I nominate Tom Francis.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And the second order of business is our vice chair of the board, who is Joe Huffman. Need a vote, need a vote on that.
Move that Huffman be vice chair. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right, that brings up our cases tonight. Variance 251-VAR-22. If anyone here tonight is going to testify either in favor or not, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Beth, did you want to describe quickly the case?
Of course, this is application 251-VAR-22 and 161-CU-22. You have application and supporting documents for 5415 Linworth Road. The applicant and his family have lived at this address in Perry Township for 21 years. The property owners wish to remain in their home, however, necessary changes are required for them to do so. As such, the applicant is requesting 2 variances and a conditional use permit. The first variance request would approve an accessory dwelling unit to house a person or couple who will assist the owners maintaining quality of life. The second variance reduces the rear yard requirements from 50 to 25 feet, adjacent to Havenhill Right of Way. This request is a result of a special condition caused by caused by the Havenhill Right of Way meeting the property at a 45-degree angle. A strict interpretation of the code forces a 50-foot rear yard to bend into the side yard. The applicant is also requesting a conditional use permit to allow a driveway connecting to Havenhill. The connection will provide easy access to the accessory dwelling unit. Please note that the applicant requests that the conditional use permit run with the land. Mr. Frank Petrozello is here if you have any questions. And I believe he has testimony as well.
Okay, all right. Would you like to testify first, Frank?
Sure, I would. Would you like me to stand there or sit here?
I think go ahead and stand over there,
Okay,
please.
I can do that. Good evening, Frank Petrozello, 5415 Linworth Road, Perry Township. I'm used to doing all that because I do a lot of this and haven't done it for my own home before. So this is a new experience for me. I want to thank you for considering our variances and conditional use permit that will allow my wife and I to age in place or age in grace. I don't know, age in place as we approach our new speed limit birthdays. I also want to thank Beth Beatty and Joe Petrozzi and Joe Smiley for their help in us putting together the application before you today. My wife is here, Gina, in the background, and We are here, obviously, to be able to answer any questions that might come up. I submitted a text with my application, and that I don't feel compelled to read unless you'd like me to. So there is that. Also, I've submitted quite extensive drawings for the project. I'm an architect. I hired another architect to actually do the working drawings because I'm not used to doing that sort of thing, but I did design the project. Would you like me to go through it, or do you have questions, or how would you like to proceed?
Why don't you summarize the addition in terms of size and room count and quality?
Okay. The addition, let's talk about uses in the addition. Number one, it has an elevator. Our parking garage is on the lower level below our living level. And right now, in order to get into the living level, you have to climb a full flight of steps to do so, either from the front yard or from the garage itself. Obviously, a flaw of the architect who did it. So we need an elevator in order to do that. We also, given my latest passion for collecting Oriental rugs, I'd like to have a space that I can hang them and look at them and talk to people about them and that sort of thing. So there's a studio space incorporated in that. There's also an exercise room. And then also then there is a living unit for an individual or couple who we see helping us as we, as I said, age in place. It has a garage, a single car garage, and we're requesting a conditional use permit to attach to Havenhill, which dead ends into our property in the rear. And the reason why we're asking for that is a couple of reasons. One, it's there, it dead ends into our property, and another is that we want to maintain as much separation as possible in terms of privacy between. And I know that sounds funny because you're saying, well, here is someone to help you live, but we also want to make it a comfortable situation as much as possible, to make it easier for us to have someone there to help us. Sizes, I'm trying to remember. I think the dwelling, the single bedroom unit is something in the neighborhood of 1,200 square feet. The portion of the studio with the elevator is also in similar size. The addition has the elevator is obviously 2 stories, and the portion that is the dwelling unit is 1 story. We're using the same materials as we used to do the addition 20 some years ago. In terms of the brick and roofing materials, it'll match the actually original house, not the center portion of the house we built 20 years ago, because that is a curved metal roof. And so all the materials will be of equal quality, high quality, and that's basically what we propose to do.
Frank, is the addition intended for you and your spouse, or is that for the caretakers?
For my spouse and I.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
caretakers will wind up in the original section of the home then?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Okay, I just.
I'm sorry. The immediate addition, the part next to the current home is for us.
Okay,
Then the next part is for, now, with time, who knows how, we might do that. We might have one of our sons move into the main house. I don't know. I know that planning for these things is quite risky because you just don't know.
question about the driveway.
Yep.
You have proposed about tying into Havenhill.
Yes.
A portion of that's behind you, I believe, is that a private drive as opposed to a public street?
Right. Our neighbors are here who can, speak to it probably even more eloquently than myself, but the public right of way actually touches our property. And there is a portion between where the Township Road stops and the edge of the right of way, it is is not maintained by the township. It's in the right of way, but it's maintained by Rob and Patty, who live behind us, along with another property that is tributary to that drive.
So I guess my question, Frank, is will you be tying into a part of the private drive that's maintained by your neighbor?
Yes, we have talked, and I've said that I'm happy to participate in any kind of maintenance situation that would be there, and I believe that will work out, but yeah, again, you can ask directly.
I would also like to add something to that. It came to our attention with one of the conversation that there was this gap. So we're going to be meeting with our road superintendent and discussing, number one, at least snow removal that needs to occur there, but also what can we do to help remedy that situation, since it is public right of way and it should be there. Now, we're not trying to take away from the character or anything like that, so obviously we'll work with the neighbors in that,
But in terms of upkeep or maintenance of that private drive, a piece of that.
The way
private
the
drive.
way the law writes is if it's in the right of way, it's the responsibility of the township.
Of the township.
Yep.
And a portion that we connect to will be entirely within the public right of way.
Okay, well, that's the clarification I was looking for.
Is there access from the new residential unit through the garage
Yes,
into the
yes.
studio?
Through the whole property, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the idea, that there will not, no one will have to go outside.
Frank, I'd like to hear your rationale for why you want the driveway to be in the rear as opposed to coming off your existing driveway from the front.
I think it's really what I said, it's a privacy thing. We'd like to keep anybody, like if they have guests or whatever, we prefer them to access independently of our driveway. Is it the end of the world? No, but the opportunity is there. Havenhill is there, so that's what we propose.
So that garage,
There are some grade issues also a little bit, because the garage, the single car garage, we have to raise the residential, the unit and the garage 2 feet above our lowest level because of fall to the sanitary sewer. And that gets the garage up above the driveway, and it will be a slope up to the driveway, whereas in the back, it meets the grade pretty well. So there is that. I had forgotten about that.
Where is the existing garage that you're using for the elevator?
The existing garage is under, this is a porch here. The
Yeah,
existing garage, 3-car garages
under the
underneath,
porch.
under the porch. Right.
Okay, so then you would go from the studio, the elevator from the studio? New part?
The elevator is right here.
Okay.
So you would walk through here, get on the elevator, come up, and then go back.
Go back to that garage. Okay.
We struggled long and hard for the location of the elevator. We wish it was more central, but we just couldn't do it. If it was planned originally, it would have been easy, but it was not.
Yeah. I think that the idea of aging in place is admirable. I like that.
Okay.
But I mean, to me, that's like getting the privacy issue for the caregivers when you have an existing driveway up a Linworth Road.
I see. It's I think a missed opportunity if we do not connect to Havenhill. Our son lives on Havenhill, actually.
how does it impact the privacy of the neighbors in your view?
Well, can we put maybe an aerial photograph of it? Or,
She just left.
okay. If you look at the drawing here, I have it here. Could you put the site plan up, please? Yeah, possibly. I'll do it the old fashioned way and walk up and point.
Oh,
That one.
all right, so,
I have it in paper right here if we need it.
let's see,
It would be the,
plans?
should be the second sheet. Yep, second sheet. Oh, that's not the plan. It said plans,
That's the application.
So fun, yeah, see plans.
and it was there.
I would try that document again. I think if you hit
I think it was,
down
the
at the bottom instead of the side.
Yeah,
it's
that went to
flipping
the
through
next
documents.
document.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, if you just scroll, once it's up
Okay,
there.
I will scroll. There we go. So I've done that the first
There you
time.
go. Okay. All right, that's great.
Okay.
So if you could slide it down just a little bit more.
Which way? Down,
The
one.
image go down. I always have trouble with that, saying which direction.
Other way. My arrow says up.
Okay, so you can see our house and our neighbors' houses. I'm sorry, Jack was here, Patty and Ron lives here, our son lives here, and this is a family, the Heights seasons live there. The driveway is here, and I'm not sure how it negatively impacts, if you see some negative impact.
And that hits the right of way, you said, that's what.
This is the right of way line.
Okay, okay.
So the connection is solely in the right of way.
But to the right of that, as we look at it, then where that right of way ends, that's private driveway.
Yes, correct. Our property line goes to the edge of that asphalt driveway, and then the driveway runs along our property line.
Where's the access to the house on the far right?
It just comes straight like this, there's a little loop here and come back up.
Oh, so
Matter of
that's
fact,
still the same private driveway.
Yes, the Perry Township Police actually, I don't know if they still do it, but many times come here, turn around.
Probably. Yes.
Does anybody else have any questions? Run, please.
I guess I would like to hear from the neighbors.
All right, is there anything further you'd like to, you wish to express at this point?
No, maybe I might have something to say at the end, but not now. Thank you.
Okay, all right, well, whoever would like to go next, please come forward. And please state your name.
I'm Jack Bldg. And I'm at 5250 Havenhill Drive. If you had that map back up, I would show you. But I'm right next door, immediately to where this construction.
To the south.
This
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
So my backyard runs along Linworth Rd,
I see. Okay.
but my driveway comes from Havenhill. And I guess I have some general comments first. And then I want to get into the actual application requirements. And point out some things that I think are problematic to me. And I certainly don't take any exception to anyone trying to stay in their residence as they get older and be taken care of, et cetera. I've been through this recently with my mother. And we had caregivers that came in, had to come in, et cetera. It just got to the point where it was so expensive to keep somebody there 24 hours a day because you had to pay them an hourly rate for 24 hours every day. So it would cost around $100,000 to have somebody stay. And I'm not talking about a nurse or even a nursing assistant. I'm just talking about generally they're generally women, but they're used to taking care of older people. And they, help them in the bathroom and with cooking, everything else. We eventually had to have her go to a assisted living facility because of that expense, but that's an aside. As Frank mentioned, when he first moved in, he put on a big addition. So this would be the second major construction project on that property. The first addition took about 9 months to complete. And with any type of construction, I don't think I have to tell you, but there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of heavy trucks, trailers, shovels, bulldozers, everything, dirt, dust. It goes on for quite a while. Personally, I think the structures there, and I don't want to refer to the studio 2-story structure because I don't think that that's an issue as far as these variances go. But the main issue to me is the residence structure, which if you look at that map, runs almost right along my border, my northern border, and pretty close to my house. And to me, that takes away from my privacy. That's one of the things I've lived there for almost 30 years now. And that's one of the things that I've loved about that house and being there. It really has a lot of privacy. Another thing is that, and I don't know whether this really is of any concern, but it would require the removal of about 4 to 6 major large trees in that area. And then whether or not the applicant and his wife currently, it might be 10, 20, 25 years before they're really going to need to have an in-person caretaker to take care of them, depending upon their health, obviously. So in the meantime, we've got that dwelling there. Well, what happens to that? Is it just going to sit vacant? Is it going to be rented? I did talk to somebody from the township, and they indicated it might have been, was it you? Yeah.
I don't know the question, so I don't know the answer.
Is there any prohibition about having a structure on your property and renting it out? And I was told that there isn't.
Not by standard township rules, correct?
So if I could go into the application, under paragraph D, D2, the Board of Zoning Appeals permits the Board of Zoning Appeals to approve variances only after certain criteria are met. These criteria are: it's not contrary to the public interest. B, owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the zoning resolution will result in unnecessary hardship. Well, I guess to back up here, in my opinion, there's not a overwhelming need to have the caretakers have their own separate residence on the property. In my experience, the vast majority of caretakers fall within a couple different types. If an individual only needs help during the day, then the caretaker usually commutes to the property. If an individual needs help, or there needs to be somebody there 24 hours a day, that individual needs to be able to stay there. But almost all of those circumstances, that caretaker stays in the house with the people that they're taking care of. They usually stay in a spare bedroom or something like that. So without staying in a spare bedroom, is that an unnecessary hardship to have them staying in the residence itself? Another thing that I think could be looked at is this studio building that's going to be constructed. There could be a room put in there for the person to stay without having to build a whole new residence for them. And if you go down and you look under paragraph F, the requested variance is the minimum variance necessary to accomplish the purpose. And that relates to what I was just talking about. Is building in a separate residence building the minimum thing that you have to do to accomplish the purpose of having a caretaker there? I don't think so. And there's also the possibility that with that sort of a structure right next to my property line, that it could affect my property values negatively, which goes down to paragraph B or G right under F. The variance will not adversely affect or injurious to private property. Then if you look at on the next page, number 3, under F, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance. As I said, you've got 2 other options here so that you can have a caretaker on the premises. And that is to stay in an actual residence or to make a provision for them to stay in the studio that's going to be built. And that pretty much covers what I wanted to touch.
Thank you for your input.
Okay, thank you.
Who's up next?
Go ahead. I'm Robert Boyd. I'm at 5403 Havenhill Drive. And I'm not only here in the support of my neighbors as well, but I'm just a few 1-2 houses up from there, kind of across from Frank's son. So, but from my house, a direct angle to that.
Okay.
So echoing what Jack said, I had this, we didn't even talk, but I had a lot of the same things highlighted in there where, the variance contrary to public interest, which I think I've talked to several other folks on our street, which if that's public interest, a lot of the folks don't want that. They're primarily, they have additional reasons, but us with additional traffic on the street, as well as what will probably primarily be a rental unit. There may be a few years where it would be caretakers there, but it would be just extra traffic on our street. And then the construction for months, a lot of us work from home there as well. It's a nice quiet street. We'll have months of a lot of noisy construction. And I'm assuming that that Havenhill access will also be the construction entrance as well during that. So again, with that section D, number 2A, I don't think it's with the public interest, at least for the folks that live on the street there. And then agreeing with Jack, I think it's a stretch where it says unnecessary hardship. Just Jack, I took care of my mom. She lived with me for the last 3 years of her life, and I took care of her there. I don't think adding such a huge addition to your property, not being able to do that would be an unnecessary hardship. There's other options there. And then C, the approval of such variance modification thereof consists of the spirit of the zoning regulation or substantial justice done thereby, which I think the spirit of that is, having that 50-foot setback is so folks don't have the back of a house that close to them looking at their front of their house, which this would be the back of what I still kind of call the rental property or whatever that will be there. So the back of that rental property and the side will be right up against them as well. So that's the back. It's not like they get to at least face the front of a house that, it's supposedly 25 feet, but this is what's supposed to be 50 feet and it's right up on their property as well. And also Ron will have to be looking at that. Also, we're going to lose a lot of trees, which kind of blinds it now as well. So I know I had highlighted number G, the ones that you have, we had the same ones done. So I just think just reading the application, a lot of the things that should be looked at, I think from a formal point of view, they don't meet, but as well as things that, a lot of the neighbors that talk to, we don't want the extra traffic in the driveway there. I've been there for 25 years. Bob and Pat Gertler, who live beside me, were just outside of the zone of being contacted. I let them know, but they didn't want that either. So most of the folks you see in Havenhill, I'm sure other than your son, right, don't want the extra traffic and that part of that property back up to it. So, and it just is kind of funny when he was saying he didn't want the, whoever's living in that unit coming up and down his driveway. He doesn't want that inconveniencing them. Well, we don't want it coming in and out of our street either. So why do we have to take on that extra traffic and in and out of that addition? But I think Frank can accomplish what he wants. He has a big part of land. When I looked at the drawings, I assume he's just trying to keep the consistent curve of that. But I think that he could shift things or move things. Like the addition where the what they call this. Where the elevator is, but it's it's a 2-story. Look to me when I did my calculations at the drawing, looks just like it's under 2,000 square feet. It's adding a 5th bedroom. It appears from the records a 5th bedroom and a 4th bathroom. And as Jack said, the caretakers could stay in that, but when you add that addition and then the garage and then the rental unit or the ADU, whatever you want to call it, it puts it right on his property line, right in his driveway, looking right at the front of his house. So it's not just the the ADU that's going in there. And I think that garage, all you gotta do is put the garage door on the other side. You can come right off the circular drive. It's just putting it on the backside. So I think there's ways to accomplish what he wants without having such an impact to the neighborhood and the neighbors. And I really do think it could lower the property values of the folks. Maybe not as much me, maybe a little bit, but definitely these folks that are sitting here as well. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ron Hanson, my wife Patty here. We live at 5429 Havenhill Drive. If you want to pull the map back up, I'll just kind of show you where we're at. But yeah, yeah, that's us right there. So yeah, so we're located right here, and you all should have a 2-page letter from me with a couple of photos showing. So basically, I just stood at our front porch and took some pictures in this direction and this direction, just to kind of show you what I'm seeing from my yard. I think I kind of echo a lot of what Jack and Rob had said. In looking at their plans, I think it's overkill for what they want to do. And, I'd ask Frank and Gina to consider to pare down their project and meet what they want to do without requiring the 50-foot setback variance and without the conditional use tying into Havenhill Drive. One other thing I'll point out is that I can't remember how many years ago, but I replaced the Heithusen's, Greg and Erica's father, Fred and Ann, owned this property before Greg and Erica acquired it a couple years ago. And so we replaced our driveway And this entire driveway, including what is considered the right of way area. So we pretty much went up all the way up to Jack Bowler's driveway. That was all done at my expense and Fred's expense. Probably a mistake at the time, but we didn't know that. And the plows, when they plow, they normally stop plowing and they dump the snow about right there, right at Jack's, where the mailboxes are, unfortunately. And then, of course, we take, at the recommendation of the company that did the asphalt work for us, that we take our garbage cans and go all the way to basically right here to kind of keep the heavy trucks off of the driveway so it lasts a little bit longer. So, and the Heights users have to go even further distance than I do. And so we're doing everything we can to kind of extend the life of that. And it is getting cracks and things like that right now. And I'd say we did that within the last 10 years or so. So yeah, at some point in time in the future, it will have to be redone. And we do a pretty good job of crack sealing and sealing it on a periodic basis, which historically, Fred and Ann Heights using the parents and I would share those expenses. I would assume that Greg and Erica would do the same. We haven't discussed it yet. It hasn't come up, but I would assume that they will participate in that going forward. As I said in my letter, we moved into our house in 2006. One of the things that we liked about that neighborhood is, especially as you get down towards the end of Havenhill Drive into our private drive and back in where the Heights users live, it's everybody who drives back there says, it's nice back here. It's quiet. If it wasn't for Don Scott, it would be totally quiet. Can't do much about that, but it's a really quiet, quaint, wooded area. There's barriers between us and the Heights users because I can't even see their house. I can barely see Jack's house from my porch. The only neighbor I can see is the one directly south of us, which are the Hosses. So it's a really nice place. It's quiet. All the surrounding lots have a lot of trees and natural vegetation and things screening most of the homes. The density of the homes in this neighborhood is very nice. All the houses have pretty big front yards and even bigger backyards. So the distance between you and the next house for the most part is pretty sizable. The property, the strip of land between which is basically right here. So there's the property line. They have a fence here. Frank and Gina have a fence here. And when we first moved in, that was, covered with honeysuckles and everything. And everyone says, ooh, honeysuckles, but it does provide a really nice screening. They tore that down and tried to plant a few small trees, and some of them survived the local deer and some did not, unfortunately. I would certainly like, some sort of screening there if they decide to go through forward with that project. So, in a nutshell, my wife and I oppose the project, and as I enumerate in my letter, the applicant's property is currently not part of what I would consider our neighborhood. Okay. In order for them to leave their property, they go out onto Linworth Road. They don't come into our property. And now they're asking to be able to come into our neighborhood. And, as nowadays with Amazon and UPS and all that, there's probably a UPS truck coming down our neighborhood trying to get the Heights users or our house or some of our, Jack's house or whatever, probably once a day, if not more. So you think you're adding another dwelling with another family living there or a couple living there, they're going to have their deliveries and things of that nature. So it's not just them coming and going. That might be one car or two cars a day, but there's deliveries now that we've got going in this new day and age. So we would like, the tie-in to that section of our, what I'll call our common private drive to be eliminated. And I think that they could, as Frank, I think indicated, he could go towards Linworth. He just chooses that he wants to keep the separation between the tenants that are caring for him and himself. And well, you're imposing on us. If you really want to do something like this, pose upon yourself. For an example, I did a project where I wanted to put a screened-in porch on the back of my house. Unfortunately, my well was right at the foundation of that, and Franklin County told us we had to move that to get it away from the foundation of the house. So I had to comply. It cost me $10,000 or more to move that. That's just, you know, if you want to do a project like that, so that's what it was going to cost. And, you know, my wife and I had to, you know, pay to have that done. And dug up our whole yard. It was a big mess. It's beautiful now. I love our backyard, but it was a lot of work and a lot of expense at the time. The applicant could alter the project design to access to the road from Linworth. This would eliminate the need for the conditional use permit. They could alter the design by reducing the project size or moving the project to the front side of their property. Perhaps that would allow you to meet the 50-foot setback requirements, and then also not have to tie into Havenhill Drive, but rather go into the Linworth direction. You know, they could potentially do a 2-story. If you got an elevator, why can't you do 2 stories? And this way you eliminate that additional section that's imposing on Jack's property. So there's a lot of variations of this plan that could be done. They also own, Frank and Gina own property to the north of the property that we're talking about. So they have additional land that they could access to do something like this as well. So they could actually do something on the north side rather than the south side of the property. As Jack mentioned, and I think Rob mentioned, that, you know, they're going to be removing a lot of trees in that area to connect into Havenhill Drive. And, you know, that's their prerogative. It's their property. It's their trees. They can do as they see fit, as I see it. But it's going to provide me a greater visibility to the new project as well as to the existing structure. So again, that's, you know, something that I would be opposed to. You know, I also add in here that, you know, if they are going to, if you are going to approve the variance for the 50-foot setback and the conditional use to tie in, that I would ask that that they not be allowed to rent that property. You know, I think that's just fair. The purpose of this is not to make rental income, but to care for themselves. And I would like that restriction to run with the land, as well as we request some sort of screening, as I mentioned, if you're going to approve the 50-foot setback variance and the conditional use, that I would like some sort of screening there, arborvitaes or some sort of evergreens, so that, you know, I don't have a view of their backyard and they don't have a view of my house either. As I said, you know, I would ask Frank and Gina to, you know, redesign this. I think there are a lot of options that they have at their, you know, is it really necessary to store you know, to them to display rugs and things of that nature? I mean, everybody would like, I would like to have a swimming pool in my backyard, but I can't. Wouldn't you? So there, obviously we all have to compromise on things, and I think there's a lot of opportunities for Frank and Gina to compromise and come up with something that isn't going to tie into our neighborhood and allows them to do everything they want to do, and yet, you know, keep the 50-foot setback and not impose on Jack and Rob's property either, and some of our other neighbors. So with that, you know, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Nice.
You're up. Yes, sir.
So, my name is Trent Hobbs. I'm in the same property as Jack, right next door. I relocated from Los Angeles about 7 years ago, so I would be in a more rural area, and but the neighbors piled up. And in LA, we have a term for when people kind of build like this they call them McMansions, you know, because you're kind of building a little bit of a vanity project over the borders of what should happen. And I appreciate somebody wanting to age, elderly into their home. Jack's parents, Jack's mother lived to be 104, Jack's father lived to be 96, and Jack has no intention of going anywhere. So he's perfectly content, living out his existence in his house the way it is. Fortunately, can you pull that
Oh,
back
sure.
up? The problem, may I? Sure. The problem I have, is
Careful.
there any way to make this bigger?
Jen?
Is there a Zoom function down at the bottom, where
I'm
it
looking
says
where you see
41%, is the button on the right.
Yes.
Go.
There you go. Because you're not really grasping when it's really small. Keep
Is that
going.
good? Okay.
Keep going. Just make it really big. Well, okay, there we go. That's pretty good.
Right until I
That's not
touch
so
the
good.
button. I'm sorry. That was right there. Yeah, no. Okay, I'll try this again. I'm really sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
See, we have a 23-year-old that works for us that knows all this stuff.
That's what that is.
He's amazing.
So my job, I'm an interior designer. My training is in architecture, engineering and design, and civil planning. I work with the city a lot to do issues. So the problem is, this is Jack's house. This is where I park my car. It's about 10 feet to where this building is. I park on, I don't park in the garage, I park because I like to park outside. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, that's super close. But I'm seeing all this other land over here that's not used. Would it be a possibility or consideration to flip that someplace and relocate this where this is literally going to be 10 feet, all the way up the driveway. And where this ties in, it really, these are mailboxes here. So the city, like they said, the city stops right here, snow shoveling, blocks our driveway anyway. So I'm always out there in the winter, which we appreciate him going that far on Havenhill. But the impact of such a large structure, it makes no sense to what's going on with the median size of house in this neighborhood is a size of less than the regular house. So is this going to set a precedence for people to start building these giant residences in the neighborhood, which is a very quiet, everybody's 60 plus in the neighborhood. There's some new people living in. Well, I'm not either. But you know what I mean? So that's another really neighborhood. It's just, these people a lot of the neighborhood just wants some peace and quiet. I'm not beyond somebody building and aging or whatever. It's just super close and not a very thought out process to the property line, which is a peculiar property, segment that's next door to Frank's. It's overbuilt on the area that it's placed on. It's not well thought out size-wise to the neighborhood. And so there's a connector here also with this new addition. I'm curious about that because I do a lot of design work. Is that so that at some point that can be removed and that will be a separate property with its own address on Havenhill that eventually somebody can sell or rent or, so once this little area is gone, is that going to be a property into itself that they can petition later on to like sell off that property or, create another house in the neighborhood? I'm just curious. So it's something anybody knows.
I would have to go through the Franklin County engineer and there's strict requirements for that.
Okay.
I will also point out that if he was not putting this addition on, he has enough land that he could subdivide that property off and sell it off to another builder.
Right,
Then
right.
build a home right there.
Mhm.
The other thing is, everybody talks about that border, the standard for the township is 8-foot setback.
Yep.
total of 20, but 8 foot on one side and the other. So just as if you look up to where I believe it's Frank's sons live, you see the proximity to that house, et cetera. That's the standards that we have. As for the size of the property, we're permitted 40% coverage of the overall lot in the property. So you talk McMansion or whatever, he could probably build 2.5 times what that is.
Right, and
Without
I didn't mean
any violation.
residential, I'm just.
No,
using
I'm
that
just
as an
letting you know
example.
that our code. and the
Oh, I'm
requirements-
sorry, I didn't mean it that way. I'm a question.
I
Also,
just
curious
wanted
to
to
the
go through the
environmental
code
impact
code
of what this is
requirements.
gonna have as well, like we said, there's a lot of trees and stuff and natural stuff. This was a farm 100 years ago. So there's a lot of, the national bird, there's 20 cardinals that nest in the neighborhood. I'm just kind of curious, is there anything that they're going to contribute back, like to green space to replant?
We being in the township do not have any tree replacement. We've got a landscape code, but there's no tree replacement policy for anyone.
Okay, that's one of my questions.
For anyone, any one of the neighbors up there can go and clear cut their trees, and that's part of the benefit of living in the township where you're not that heavily regulated.
Okay.
Is it okay, is it out of turn if I ask a question?
Yeah, I
When,
was just asking.
when you do a project like this and you need a variance, does the township require alternate designs, or do you consider alternate designs, or does the applicant just submit one design and it's an up or down on that?
We're not in the design business, okay? Just like you would come in with whatever you want. If you meet the requirements, et cetera, or you need a variance or whatever. We're not here to tell you, if you go do this, or if you decide you want to do this, the idea of aging in place, et cetera. I've done the work for 30 years in it. It's called continuous care. There's facilities that you go to. You've got independent living, then you got assisted living, and then you've got nursing care. And
Right, well, what I was asking is that, in my business, I do environmental consulting, and sometimes when I'm working with, highway EPA or whatever, that if my client wants to do something and it doesn't meet the requirements, the agency will come back and say, give us an alternate plan for what you want to do that meets the criteria, and then we'll consider whether we think, allowing certain variances is acceptable. But I see here that it's pretty much, this is our A plan, and A plan requires 3 deviations from the normal requirements. And, could there be another plan or two that would meet all the criteria, and then there would be no reason for any of us to be here? They could just do whatever they want. As I said, if they want to take down trees, that's sort of prerogative. I can't stop them. If I want to take down a tree in my neighborhood, I don't want my neighbor telling me I can't. But once you ask for a variance, then you open it up to public comment, and that's why we're all here today. And as I said, I'd like Gina and Frank to reconsider their design and come up with something that doesn't require a variance or a conditional use, and just, leave it at that, and then we all go home, I think. Yeah.
Again, I'll just tell you that we're not in the design business, et cetera. What's before us tonight is what's before the board tonight, and that's the consideration that they've got. And
Okay.
we've got our
Okay,
code. We're just not.
Okay, right. So it's up or down. Okay.
Well, I would add
understand.
that your concern, your comment's been noted.
No, I know that.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
And if, and when the applicant's given an opportunity to respond to the comments that have been made in this intervening period, it'll be up to him if he wants to just, describe other avenues that were explored. And I won't speak for him on that. I'll let him answer that if that's.
All right,
if
fair enough.
information he can
Thank
provide.
you.
And I'm sorry, just so you all know, this is Jen
No.
Huber. She's the township's legal counsel.
Hello.
Well, Frank, it's your turn.
Okay, before we have Frank speak up, no, you can go ahead. I just have a quick comment. I missed my opportunity, but Mr. and Mrs. Hanson's letter, does the board want to enter that as an exhibit?
Yeah, yes, we did.
Okay, so we'll make that exhibit A.
Can I write this?
Yes,
please. That's
Okay.
my copy.
And I shared Mr. Petrozello has seen it, and we'll make sure we send him a copy of it, an email copy, so that he has a copy of it, but exhibit A. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let me just go through some of the notes that I've made. First, we have a total of 3 acres. about a little bit less than that. 1 acre of it, the acreage that was mentioned, go to the other side, is entirely ravine and woods. That we are protecting the environment, obviously, by not trying to build in it. You might guess that an architect's house, I spent a lot of time. This addition has been in 12 different places on that property. It has been in many different configurations. And we've considered all of them. And this is the one, given all the considerations, is the one that has worked for us. To allay any concerns about us having some ulterior motives about this connector piece. You see that large circle there? That's the drip line of a magnolia tree that my client, my wife, is very attached to. And the reason for that is to clear the magnolia tree. That's the only reason. And that portion is 2 stories tall, and it's square footage that I'd rather not build, but it's the only way to attach that in that location. So there is, and plus, if we got rid of that, there would be no access to the elevator. I want to point out also that, yes, there will be some trees removed, 3. And one is a walnut, one's a buckeye, and one's a something else. Cherry. No, I think it's a cherry tree. Oh, it's a cherry? Okay, cherry. Okay. The other issue was traffic. I'm not sure that one unit with a single car garage is really significantly going to provide traffic on a street that has many homes on it. The bedroom, somebody brought up a bedroom. We are not adding a bedroom to the house. We are actually reconfiguring the current, when we did the original house was turned into it was just left as bedrooms. 1949 house. So the only part we added was living space. The bedrooms are small and do not have accessible fixtures in them. So the plan is to, and it's in the drawings, the plan is to eliminate a bedroom in the original portion of the house such that there can be a accessible restroom built there. And then that lost bedroom is being replaced. Let's see. It was mentioned, why not move it to the north? We get into the ravine, it gets into difficulties, it gets into a lot more trees and a lot more issues. Now, and then it was mentioned that we are not encroaching on the side yard towards Mr. Holder's property at all. As a matter of fact, the closest point it comes to the property line is 10 feet, not the minimum of 8. And the other end of it, I believe, is in the 30 some feet from the property line, because it angles away as it goes farther. With regard to the variance for the setback, I made a little diagram that I thought maybe you might want to look at.
Mr. Francis, so I don't forget again, would you like to mark that as exhibit B?
Yes, please.
Mark it.
Thank you.
Okay. This is my little color doodle today. I couldn't help myself. What I'm showing here is that if you can look at my pencil for a minute, and then you can see it on the bottom. The green portion is the portion of the building that would intersect with the 50-foot setback from the Havenhill Right of Way. The Havenhill Right of Way in that portion was actually part of this property, and it was dedicated by the prior owner to the county for that road, which caused this funny little jog in the property there. So if you assume the 50 feet follows that line, not the side yard line, you end up with the 50-foot setback that was determined was the most conservative way to assess the requirement. The yellow portion represents a 25-foot setback. The front yard, required front yard setback on Havenhill Drive is 25 feet. Any structure can be within 25 feet of Havenhill along its entire length. So, you know, my argument initially was that 25 feet was compliant because it's a front yard as is allowed on Havenhill. But we took the approach that we needed to you know, get it before the board and make sure that it was everybody was in agreement. I also point out, if you run the 50-foot setback all the way across, straight across parallel with the back, everything is forward of that. So it sounds like, you know, a significant alteration to say that you want to cut the rear yard in half, but when you look at the geometry and you look at the history of the property and the way it has changed, I truly believe it is a hardship variance in terms of setback. And then let me talk about the driveway a little bit. Honestly, I haven't talked to Gina about it, but if there is a great issue with the driveway, as I've said, it doesn't have to be there. So, you know, if that is something that will not make us enemies in the neighborhood, you know, which we certainly don't want, that we could potentially not do that. So I could see that. The other thing is, there was a lot of discussion about how we need to age and how we need to hire people and how we need to do it the way that other people do it. I would tell you that we are doing it the way we feel we need to do it. And we have no intention of renting this unit at all. This is not a way to make money, trust me. There is no penciling this as a rental unit, given how much money it's going to cost. We see the ability to provide a unit for someone to live with us is the benefit, not rent, but rent-free essentially. So I just want to point out that that's how we have looked at our ability to stay on this property. And it may not be the same as others, but it's the way that we feel is best for us. So that's what I know. Gina, do you have anything like that?
I would just like to thank the neighbors for their comment.
Yes.
I've noted.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
Okay.
I think you need to listen to.
Okay.
I just had one thing to say about the private drive. It's not the same width as the road. So it's not easy to get, I mean, sometimes we have to wait for one person to come out so the next person can go in. There are going to be more people there. If they have guests, we're going to be looking right at their car. Their cars can't park on the drive. They have to park out on Havenhill if they're going to be going into that.
Yeah.
So
No,
that is a hardship.
We truly did not anticipate the issue that is being brought up. So, you know, as I said, that's fine. The other thing I didn't say is that we have been working also to try to make it smaller, to try to pull it farther away. It wouldn't change any variances. It wouldn't change any of the numbers, but it would move it farther away from Jack's property. Even though, as I said, we're not breaking the setback line. So, you know, we would make a commitment to continue to try to increase that. I believe we can get to somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 feet from the property line, which is double the side yard it's required. So, you know, we're not tone deaf to these issues, and but it doesn't change the it doesn't change the variances that would be necessary.
Ernie, did you have-
Yeah, sure. My question is, and I appreciate you have no intention of renting it or Airbnb it or anything like that. I appreciate that. But I guess my question is whether it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or 30 years before you need the caregivers to move in there. What is the plan for the interim use?
We would consider having a couple living there now to help us with everything, help us with, to share in the responsibilities for the property. So, when I say caregiver, I'm not necessarily talking about some clinician. I'm talking about having other hands on the property.
A live-in maid.
Well, a live-in friend, right? That there's benefit to having people live together and that's all it
Thank you.
is. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a couple questions? Thank you. Mr. Petrosal, it's a private drive. Havenhill, this extension off of Havenhill is a private drive, right?
This portion, here's the right of way.
Right, but where you would
Okay.
connect, right?
I would
here.
connect.
Mhm.
This grade is here.
So who is in control of the private drive right now?
The private drive right here is literally in the right of way, and that is governed by the township.
So there's no permission that needs to be sought from the other folks on the private drive?
None.
Okay. Okay, that was first.
That is one of the issues that we have to pursue though with our road department, because
Understood.
this just came to our attention that it did not go all the way and that they were taking care of the maintenance, et cetera, on their own.
Okay, so it's private in the sense that it serves something less than the entire public, but due to its location,
It's in the right
it's
of
sort
way.
of semi-public because it's in the road.
It is public.
Okay, all right, all right, I
It
appreciate
is
that.
public.
Okay,
Yep.
so that answers that question. And then based on your most recent comments, do you still want the BZA to consider the conditional use for the driveway?
I think. Yeah,
Okay.
I think we're happy to take that off the table.
Oh.
To not vote, to
not seek that
to-
conditional
to-
use.
I think we should consider.
Yeah.
reconfigure.
So we're happy to take that off the table.
Continue that case, or do you want to rescind it?
No,
or
let's just rescind it.
altogether?
Let's just rescind it.
Okay, so does the board understand that the conditional use case has been
Withdrawn.
rescinded, revoked, withdrawn by the applicant? So that's not on your plates anymore.
So all we're talking about is the studio, the new residential unit and the garage.
Correct.
The two variances being sought now, just two variances, no conditional use. Two variances are the reduction of the from 50 feet to 25 feet of the rear yard requirement, and the ability to use that portion, the new portion of the structure, for a second dwelling unit, accessory dwelling unit. Yes.
I just have a technical question for Joe.
Joe or Jen.
Be volunteer.
Just to back up a minute, that private drive and the driveway. If that is in a right of way,
Mhm.
and it's township, where that is physically connecting to, we're all in agreement that that is in the right of way.
Correct,
Why would it even require a conditional use then?
because it's a second driveway and our code indicates that any establishment is entitled to one driveway.
If I close the driveway on Linworth Road, I could connect there and run
Absolutely.
another driveway around
I
to
see.
connect it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But the right of way, and if I'm looking at this correctly, and help me out. The right of way basically ends where that driveway connects, right?
Yeah, this is,
This is the right of way.
hold on. This is all right of way.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, but then this is all private drive.
That's correct, but I'm not connecting it. I wouldn't connect it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're just down to 2 area variances at this point, then driveways off the table.
Yeah, that's what's wrong.
One area variance and one use variance.
Can I, mind if I ask a somewhat unrelated question? So what would the township do with this right of way, and how would that change, plowing and maintenance? Because it's a goofy angle, it's not like straight across, so how are you gonna handle that?
We have no idea. This just came to our, so, a couple ideas. That could be kind of cul-de-sac,
Obviously, it's the best policy. We have no idea.
They thought they didn't own it. They thought they didn't own it.
Yeah, well, because, Jack's property looks like a pie shape, and your property goes, if you connect all the dots, all the pins, your property actually goes, kind of where that new sewer drain is that I put in. Well, to the left of that, kind of where the hedgerows are, you've got a pin right there. So you got a real point that goes across the driveway, basically across the right of way.
That's something we, look, it just came up. I can't give you any answers tonight. There's a lot of different things that could happen there, et cetera. So more to follow on that. And, if y'all want us to pursue it, we'll pursue it. If y'all like the way it is, we'll leave it. Because once again, when you open that can of worms, guess what?
Yeah, I mean, it gets,
Yeah.
We're going to the county engineer, they're our engineer.
They might make it a big wide street.
They very possibly could. So why don't you all talk about it and decide if you want we would like to do whatever our responsibility is, but we don't want to infringe upon what you have. So
it's because it necks down, it gets a little messy in that section, that having a plow go in there or any other kind of big truck is, kind of problematic, I think, for you guys.
part of the issue.
Yeah.
Snowplow's got to go back there. It's got to be able to turn around.
Unrelated to what we're talking about.
Unrelated, so let's get
Sorry
back
about
to
that.
this.
Okay.
Sorry.
Has everybody testified that wishes to testify? Okay. I think what we want to do next is call for a private deliberation and have our attorney just clarify a few points with us.
So move to, is there a motion to enter private deliberations
So moved.
in a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Francis,
Yes.
Mr. Potter,
Yes.
Mr. Kent, Mr. Harlan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you want to note the time for the record?
Yes, it's about 7:43, Megan.
Okay.
All right, we're going to call the hearing back to order.
So motion to reconvene.
Motion to reconvene, yes. So moved.
Second.
Roll call again. Mr. Francis.
All right.
Oh, you
Roll
were
call.
taking a roll call.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, Mr. Potter.
Here.
Mr. Kent,
Yes.
Mr. Harlan.
Yes.
Did you have the time?
I did.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I have motion to approve. Okay, I move to approve variance case number 251, variance 22, as submitted with respect to the property located at 5415 Linworth Road, Columbus, Ohio, on a finding that the requests meet the applicable standards and factors. Such approval is subject to the following additional conditions. The second dwelling unit may only be used as non-commercial guest accommodations.
Second.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Mr. Francis. Mr. Potter,
Yes.
Mr. Kent,
Yes.
Mr. Harlan.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ma'am. save everything and talk about it.
Anything else on the agenda?
Okay.
No, is there any announcements?
There is.
That was in our house back in 2017.
I was.
Related that.
Hang on just a second.
We're still meeting. Oh, I'm sorry.
We're still meeting.
We're still concluding meeting here.
You may leave.
Okay, under announcements, I just want to let y'all know
Thank
that
you.
there will be likely upcoming meeting. It will be a conditional use for 5622 Riverside Drive. My question is, the next meeting would be obviously in second week of June. Is there a regular scheduled one? I was curious to find out if you all would be available. Let's see. Hang on, let me do it this way. The date here.
June 14th.
Yeah, the next one's June 14th, and I haven't spoken to the applicant yet, but I know they've been going through quite a long process for this. So would y'all be available on the 24th if he would be available?
What day is that?
That's a Tuesday still, yeah. Are y'all okay with that?
24th of what?
I'm sorry, no, May,
Oh, May.
Oh,
May.
May,
no.
actually, it's May, I leave the
Oh, I-
23rd.
Okay, and then we've got the holiday coming up, so that's, we'll have to stick with the stuff.
Yeah, my question is, could we get all the legalese done in that?
Yeah, I can do it. I can make it happen, but that's okay. And like I said, the following week is a whole Memorial Day thing going, so that's fine. I was just throwing it out there.
What's that case about? Can you share anything with us?
It's, if you go down Riverside, it's just north of the new Epcon development. I always called it the Castle House when I first
I know
moved out
exactly
here.
where
They're
you-
doing a lot of work outside, and part of it is about drainage.
Okay.
So,
Is that the stone one that looks like a church that has a slate roof?
I don't think it has a slate roof to it.
It's on Riverside Drive?
It's on Riverside Drive. It's right next to the Epcon development, just to the north.
Just to the north.
Yeah.
Between Epcon and the Northwest Methodist Church or something, right in there. I think it's-
No, I
yeah.
don't recall a church being on there.
Is it
Yeah.
one that's all white?
Yeah, they just painted it all
Okay.
white. It used to
That's
be a
where-
stone front.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
thank
they-
you.
So they need a variance for.
A conditional use permit, and it's related to the drainage. I can get you the documentation. We had to send it out to the county soil conservation as well as the planning and engineer's office to see if they had any feedback before I could present it to the board. That's why it was kind of held up, so. So you'll expect that next month then on the agenda.
That doesn't sound too contentious at this point.
I don't believe so. I think all the powers that be, so to speak, are okay with it. That was a concern, is the soil and water was probably the biggest one. Because that's all been leveled now. And with the flow going down into the river there, they had to make sure they had everything.
Did this get caused by that Epcon development?
No.
The problem or
Oh,
not?
no. This is changes that the owner made or
Oh,
wants
okay.
to make. Yep.
So you'll let us know what date it finalized out to be?
I will, and if, but yes, I would expect it will be the second Tuesday of the month. So, my second thing is, I need to find an alternate for the BZA. So if you have anyone that you may possibly know who might be interested, I'm gonna be sending out a Facebook postie blast to the local community as well. But we are down one alternate right now. We're down to one alternate, Brian Steele. So, okay.
What areas are represented? For instance, Jim and I live on the same street. You don't want somebody from our neighborhood.
Right, well, we have Ernie,
I live in
Ernie's
the hills.
in the hills, yeah, Jim and Bud are in the Henderson Heights area. And then Tom's from Brookside,
Just from Brookside.
Joe's. Yeah, that's right, Joe is from Brookside as well. Brian is from the hills. So,
So we've got pretty even.
Right.
Yeah.
So it should come from me.
yeah, I mean,
So Brian's an alternate now,
he's an alternate, yes.
okay,
Right, but I was with us, I was having new residents from Epcot and Ravello. I'll be sharing that information with them too, to see if there's anyone who, we maybe find somebody in that neighborhood as well. But yes, I think the BZA is a pretty diverse board when it comes to region, so. And that's all I have, thank you.
Okay. All right, well,
No reports.
No, I'm sorry, no reports.
no report. Move to adjourn.
Second.
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you so much.